Right, this is Mike Monteforte from Monteforte Law. We're here bringing you another webinar. This is my good friend and colleague, Ryan Bailey. Ryan has a real estate practice, and he's joining us today to talk a little bit about his practice and how their procedures and functionality has changed in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, and how they are still up and running, but taking the particular safety precautions that are needed to still be able to perform real estate closings and service their clients. So Ryan, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. If you want to just tell a little bit about yourself and about your company, I think that'd be a great way to start.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Mike, for having me this morning. And yeah, as you said, my name is Ryan Bailey. I am a real estate attorney, office in Newton. Our law firm's Bailey McLaughlin. It's myself and my partner, Maria McLaughlin. And I've been practicing real estate almost exclusively since I became an attorney in 2003. So going on 17 years now. Actually, I think I'm up for just about at my 17-year anniversary at this point. So pretty strong background in real estate. And pretty much, I would say about 95+% of our practice is residential real estate, primarily real estate conveyancing, which essentially means that we're representing buyers and or mortgage lenders, mortgage brokers in real estate closings, which can be refinances of current mortgages on residential real estate, but also obviously purchases of real estate as well. We represent individual buyers and sellers. We represent some developers as well. Do a little bit of landlord-tenant stuff, but mostly we're conveyancers, which means we handle real estate closings, we handle title work, doing research at the county records, registry of deeds to make sure it's people's legal ownership of their real estate is intact, and also that handle the contracts that are involved with purchase and sales of real estate.
Gotcha. And I know, Ryan, you mentioned, as well as representing buyers and sellers, that you represent lenders. And I think that's something that a lot of times buyers don't necessarily realize, is even if they hire you to do their purchase and sale or something like that, they do have some rights of choice when an attorney is needed to represent their lender. And all lenders are different. We know they all have their own procedures and things like that, but there are many cases where they can have you do their purchase and sale, but still also handle the closing for their lender. They just have to know to ask. And sometimes lenders don't make that clear that, the buyers do have, in a lot of cases anyway, the right to have you handle both. So it's an important thing that I think, in my experience, clients don't always realize. So do you have particular lenders that you work with regularly, or are you able to pretty much work with any lender that a buyer brings on?
Yeah, we do. And like you said, we are constantly, I would say, helping to educate home buyers with the differences between the representation of you individually versus handling the lender work, which essentially means that you're handling the title work and also the settlement of the closing, which involves the funding from the mortgage lender and the disbursement of those funds at the closing. So obviously you're either paying off a current mortgage or you're handling funds going to the seller of real estate. And yeah, we do represent certain mortgage lenders. We partner with a lot of mortgage brokers and mortgage lenders. We do, a lot of the smaller local banks and or credit unions will have more restrictive lists on which attorneys they will allow to do their portion of the closing work for. So in order for you to handle the title and the settlement work for those particular banks and credit unions. You essentially have to be added to their list. And we are on some lists. I think Cambridge Savings Bank is one. Leader Bank we can do closings for. And there's some other banks that we're working on, but primarily our focus is on mortgage brokers and mortgage lenders that are typically more willing and able to work with attorneys that their buyers choose to or borrowers choose to bring into the transaction. It's mostly the smaller banks, credit unions that have more restrictions involved.
Agreed. And that's a testament to you. Just the fact that you guys are on any of those lists for some of these smaller banks, that can be they are more selective. So the fact that you guys are able to do closings for even some of those smaller banks, like I said, really is a testament to you guys and your skill and experience, because that they don't let just anybody on their list. But the primary reason, or why I was looking forward to talking to you today, is because I'm trying to figure out how you're doing this in the midst of, what's going on with the pandemic and social distancing. On my end, being, primarily, an estate planner and an elder law attorney, we're having to, we had to transition a lot of our, initial meetings to video. We're trying to use video as much as possible. And even when it comes down to someone signing documents, we're trying to take advantage of the new rules that allow for remote notarization. But, there are still instances where people have to come into the office, and we're trying to maintain, again, safe parameters and being able to have people come in and still do it safely. But for your business, for a real estate closing, whether it's a refinance where it's you and, someone that's refinancing their current home, or where you've got a purchase, so you've got buyers and sellers, and maybe real estate brokers and mortgage brokers, how are you doing it? How are you handling the closings now versus, before everybody just sat down at a table, we scrunched in there 2 feet from each other and we did it. So how's that working for you guys now? How are you doing things?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's been a challenge, but we have been able to operate during this time. We are still doing closings, of course, and it's been pretty busy. Interest rates are low. So a lot of refinance is happening. Plenty of purchase activity as well. So it hasn't been without challenges, but we have been, well, first of all, we've been deemed an essential service because we handle both as I was referencing before, we handle the settlement of financial transactions. Obviously, a real estate refinance or purchase is a substantial financial transaction for the people that are involved. So as an essential service, we handle the settlement of those transactions. And also real estate closings were specifically included on that list of essential services. So so first of all, most of our work for real estate closing can be handled via email communication, electronic communication, and phone calls. I mean, that's pretty much how we typically operate anyways, pandemic or not. It obviously, when you get to the final closing, that's where all the differences come into play. And Massachusetts has been, historically speaking, a pretty kind of old school state in that regard, where we haven't allowed any kind of remote notarization, electronic notarization. You have to be physically present with the person that's executing the documents in order to witness and properly and legally notarize their legal documents. So that's kind of where the main in-person part of it comes into play.
Right.
Now, Massachusetts did pass a law, actually at the end of April, they finally passed it, that allows, temporarily speaking, during the emergency orders, they allow now a electronic video conference recording to take place so you're able to notarize those documents via video conference. But it is a it's a more involved process. There's 2 steps at least in the process. People have to have the video conference technology in place. Both the people that are signing the documents and us have to have the technology in place to be able to implement it properly. And there's challenges involved with that. I keep coming back to that word, challenge.
Yeah.
So we have the capability to do that, but it's a new law, and we, quite frankly, we haven't actually done that quite yet. But we do have the technology in place that we could implement that for borrowers upon request. But what we have been primarily doing during this time is we've been doing what I'm referring to as drive-through or drive-in closings,
Okay.
which allows borrowers to come to our office. We've been typically meeting them actually in our office parking lot, to be honest. They will come essentially fully prepared. We'll completely prepare them for the closing ahead of time, tell them exactly what they need to bring. And I will, or my partner will, go out and meet them at their car, hand the documents to them, stand at a safe distance, and obviously we're outside in the open air. They're inside their cars. They're wearing masks. We're wearing masks. We're wearing gloves. They bring their own pens. They bring something to write. We go over all these kind of nitty-gritty details to make sure they're fully prepared to sign the documents as comfortable as they can. And we're able to hand them the documents. We're able to talk them through and witness as they sign and notarize as they sign the documents. But we're not literally, like typically at a closing, you're literally pointing at the line where they need to sign. You're like right on, basically right next to them, a foot away. But we've adjusted to try to maintain that social distance as much as possible. So that's what we've been doing is having borrowers primarily come in, they wear their masks, they sit in their cars, and essentially do a drive-through closing to maintain that social distance. We can, as things start to slowly but surely open up a little bit, we can have people come back into the office as well, hopefully, relatively soon. We do have obviously a conference room. We can have them sit at one end of the conference room. And this is how we started to do it at the beginning stages of the pandemic. We had them come in, wear the mask and gloves, sit at one end of the conference room table. I sit on the other end of the conference room table and kind of be able to see what they're signing as they're signing. But I'm not pointing directly at the signature line as they sign the document. Right. Just to maintain that social distance.
Sure. I love that, the idea of the drive-by closing, because it's keeping everybody safe. It is not, a huge inconvenience to the borrowers. Really, it's almost easier, if anything. You don't even have to get out of their car, pull up, you hand them the documents, run through it, they sign and hand them back and call it a day. And so I get it, talking about that it's a challenge, and this whole thing has been a challenge to everybody. So that is a word that I am definitely hearing a lot. But it's clear that you guys have, kind of risen to that challenge and figured out a way to do this. And I know you mentioned some of the technology and video signing capability, but you're right that that law, even though it's effective right now, it is temporary, and they could at any time pull that back and say, okay, we're no longer going to allow this remote notarization, but we still have to maintain social distancing. And it's great that you guys kind of already have this system down pat where, you've got people driving up and signing and driving home. I think that's awesome. I'm going to ask you one other question. And, for years ago, I used to do a lot of real estate work as well. But for the last several years, I've focused primarily on the estate planning and the elder law stuff. But one of the questions that clients used to ask me was, kind of in the purchase process, when is the right time to, reach out to a real estate attorney? Should it be before they make their offer, after they make their offer, at the time of purchase and sale? I mean, I used to, remember pulling my hair out and saying to clients, don't sign a purchase and sale without, letting somebody look at it. But for you guys, what advice are you giving as far as the appropriate time for clients to kind of reach out to you in the process if they wanted to, hire your firm to handle the transaction for them?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. Whenever somebody who's a prospective home buyer or seller asks me that question, I will encourage them and tell them that the earlier you can get in touch with an attorney, really the better. And what I like to kind of refer to it as is early intervention home buying and selling counseling, which what I mean by that is if you can get in touch with an attorney before you sign an offer, one way or another, if you're a buyer or a seller, if you can get in touch with an attorney before you actually sign that offer, that's really the best time to contact an attorney if you have the time and inclination to do it. Now, I say that, but in reality, I would say, I don't know, 95+% of the time, people are making that offer, signing that offer, accepting that offer before they actually contact the attorney.
Yeah.
So that is at the end of the world? Of course not, because that's how it happens almost all the time. They're working with a real estate agent, preferably. We always encourage buyers and sellers to work with a professional, experienced real estate agent. And we, obviously can refer people to real estate agents if they should need, who can help guide them through that offer process as well. But the real estate agent doesn't necessarily have that legal background to be able to work out the terms of an offer from a legal perspective.
Sure.
So what happens most of the time is people get in touch with the attorney after the offer gets accepted, and then they go to the purchase and sale stage, which is, the purchase and sale contract is a lot more detailed legal contract that has a lot more legal terms and with it. I would definitely say if you're not having an attorney represent you during a purchase and sale contract negotiation, then you're leaving yourself at risk to contract terms that are not going to be very advantageous to you,
right,
either on the buyer or the seller side. So
definitely. And you and I think have seen situations like that go very, very wrong and very badly for people that tried to do this on their own and result in all kinds of issues with liability and deposits and things like that. So what we will do, Ryan, at the end of this is my office will put into the end of the webinar a screen that's got your contact information. But if you wouldn't mind just giving out your phone number or email, just kind of the best way for a client to get in touch with you if they're looking to have you handle a transaction for them.
Sure. You can reach us by phone. Main office line is 617-965-2004. I'm extension 1. And also my email address is also obviously one of the best ways to get in touch with me. It's just ryan@baileymclaughlin.com.
Okay, Ryan, that's awesome. This was hugely informative. It's definitely great information for my client. So I appreciate it. I thank you so much for taking the time. I just can't say enough how much I appreciate you doing it. So good to see you, my friend. So good to talk to you. And just thank you again, just for taking a little time out of your day to help us out. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thank you very much again for having me.
All right. Thanks, my friend.
All right. Take care.